Humans have been pretty good at devising ways to kill each other throughout history. In 142 AD, Chinese alchemist Wei Boyong wrote that he discovered a mixture of 3 powders that could violently fly and dance. Gunpowder was born. And while things that go boom are certainly terrifying, there have been many other weapons that you wouldn't want to find yourself on the receiving end of. These are the most terrifying weapons in ancient history. Flaming pigs.
Fire has been used in a lot of creative ways during wars. Flaming arrows, napalm, a simple torch. But one of the most gruesome ways it was used came in 266 BC when waves of pigs were set alight and stampeded from the gates of a besieged city towards an opposing army's war elephant.
You can maybe imagine the terror of hearing the hideous squeals of the unfortunate swine as they rushed towards you. That terror was probably only matched by the fact that the war elephants in your army were also terrified and started stampeding through their own ranks, trampling hundreds of soldiers underfoot. According to ancient Greek historian Polygenus, this was the scene during the siege of Megara. Macedonian ruler Antigonus II Gonatas had the Greek city of Megara surrounded. He had a formidable army loaded with seasoned soldiers, catapults, and war elephants. But the Megarans behind the walls had no intention of letting their city fall. They lathered up some pigs with some kind of crude oil or resin, lit them up, and then pushed them out the gates of the city. Letting out what were most likely horrifying squeals, the pigs rushed toward Antigonus's war elephants. Elephants, apparently, don't like pigs very much. They took off, trampling Antigonus's soldiers along the way. The siege was broken and Megara was saved. Antigonus apparently learned from the unfortunate mishap. From then on, the Mahouts, or elephant riders, keep pigs around the elephants to make them more accustomed to their presence, although a docile, not-on-fire pig is a bit less startling than one shrieking towards you in flames. The Claw of Archimedes.
It's 214 BC. You're a Roman soldier sailing on a warship on your way to besiege the city of Syracuse on what's now the island of Sicily. Under the cover of darkness, your fleet sails towards the city walls. This should be a cakewalk. The people of Syracuse had no idea you were there. Then suddenly a flare goes up. Illuminated by fire, a giant iron hand descends upon your ship, grips on and yanks it nearly out of the water before letting go. As you and your ship sink to the bottom of the Mediterranean, you wonder, what the heck just happened?
This device was known as the Claw of Archimedes. Archimedes was one of ancient Greece's maddest scientists. He actually was a genius, really, but like most geniuses, he was a bit odd. It's said that when he discovered the principle of hydrostatics, one of the most important discoveries in early physics, he was in a bathtub. He was so excited by his realization that an object submerged in a fluid experiences an upward buoyant force equal to the weight of the displaced fluid that he ran through the streets naked, shouting, "Eureka!" Some of Archimedes' most famous innovations, though, were weapons. He created some of the most devastating catapults of his time.
There's even a legend that he cooked up a death ray that used mirrors to concentrate sunlight and shoot it towards Roman ships, which would then burst into flame, although there's no real evidence that such a thing ever existed. Then he came up with the claw that sank our Roman soldier and his ship.
The Claw of Archimedes consisted of a long pivoted beam with a claw or hook at one end and a counterweight at the other. When a Roman ship approached the city walls, soldiers in the city would maneuver the claw into position. It's said that the thing was so big that it took nearly the entire population of the city to leverage it. The claw would then be released, swinging down with a massive amount of force and speed. The claw would grab hold of the enemy ship's deck, and the counterweight would lift the ship out of the water, often causing it to capsize or splinter into pieces. Amazing what physics can do. The Brazen Bull.
People have invented some pretty horrible punishment devices over the years. One of the most gruesome has a backstory to it that's even more brutal than the device itself.
Paralaus, a skilled sculptor and inventor, had an idea one day. It was the 6th century BC during the reign of Phalaris, the tyrant of Acragas in modern-day Sicily. Paralaus wanted to impress his king, so he toiled away for months building a magnificent bronze bull. He called it the Brazen Bull. It was hollow, though, and had a door or hatch on its side through which a person could climb into the bull. Was this his version of a Trojan horse? Could it be used to hide soldiers and sneak behind city walls? Maybe, but Paralaus had other ideas. Eager to impress Phalaris, Paralaus presented his creation to the tyrant as a work of art and a form of punishment for criminals. He described how the condemned person would be thrown inside the brazen bull, and then a fire would be lit underneath it. As the metal heated up, the unfortunate victim would be roasted alive within the bull's belly. Paralaus figured that this horrifying barbecue would both entertain and serve as a pretty good deterrent against crime. Now, Paralaus was known to be a pretty mean guy. He loved the brazen bull and he wanted to test it out. He suggested that Paralaus hop inside to demonstrate how it worked. Uh-oh. Of course, it was just a test. Uh-oh. Paralaus would just show how the door opened and stuff, right?
Nope. Paralaus was locked inside the brazen bull. Firewood was brought in and lit up beneath it. As the metal heated up, Paralaus started screaming in agony. But what the onlookers heard weren't the screams of the inventor. Paralaus had designed the bull with an acoustic device that transformed a person's screams into the deep bellowing of a bull. Sadistic, ironic, terrifying.
Chinese flamethrowers.
In the early 900s AD, during China's 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms period, which lasted from 907 to 970, someone came up with one of the most destructive ideas of the ancient world. Fierce fire oil was a concoction of an early type of gasoline, resins, and oils that could burn everywhere, even on top of water. The oil itself was effective enough, but add to it a new mechanism that could spray it out, and you had the world's first flamethrower.
The pinhuochi, I sure hope I said that right, a fierce fire oil cabinet as it was called, was operated by pressuring a container filled with fierce fire oil and then shooting the liquid through a nozzle or tube by pumping a cylinder from behind. When it was ignited, the oil would shoot out in a stream of flames, creating a fiery jet directed at whoever was unfortunate enough to be caught on the business end. The pinhuochi was a warfare game changer. The flame it shot out could reach 20 or 30 feet, and it ignited anything it touched. If you were a soldier and saw the thing rolled up to the front lines during a battle, it was best to run away, fast. These flamethrowers were used to particularly devastating effect during the Battle of Yamen, a navy battle that saw the Song dynasty fall to the Mongol-led Yuan dynasty in 1279 and marked the Mongols' complete conquest of China. The Song were in a tough spot. The Mongol navy had grown over the years thanks to their conquest of other Chinese dynasties and the fact that they were able to successfully absorb their navies.
In a last-ditch effort, the Song commander, Zhang Serchi, decided they should string together 1,000 ships across the Bay of Yamen to try to hold the Mongols off. They sprayed the flamethrowers from their ships towards the incoming Mongol navy, turning the bay into a firestorm. You know, for real, low-key, I kind of want one of these things, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It worked for a while, until it didn't. One day the Mongols started playing some music to make the Song think they were taking a break and having a banquet. They're probably playing R&B, lulling them into a false sense of security before attacking and breaking through the naval blockade. War elephants.
As long as there weren't any flaming pigs around, or maybe especially when there were flaming pigs around. War elephants were some of the most terrifying weapons of the ancient world in their own right. And there was one Indian emperor who amassed the largest army of them the world has ever seen, and another who got them intoxicated, so they, trampled better.
Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of India's Mauryan Empire in 322 BC, loved his war elephants. He had an army of 9,000 of them, decked out with armor and blades attached to their tusks to swing around with lethal effect. They had things called howdahs on their back, which were kind of like armored platform saddles from which archers or soldiers with spears would rain down even more death and destruction. The third Mauryan emperor, Ashoka the Great, continued on with this, definitely not PETA-approved, war elephant tradition. By the time Ashoka came around, the Mauryan Empire stretched across nearly all the Indian subcontinent, but the feudal kingdom of Kalinga was still holding out. In 261 BC, Ashoka amassed his army and set out with conquest on his mind. The Kalinga War turned out to be one of the bloodiest in India's history. 250,000 people died. Thousands of war elephants faced off on both sides, and it's said today a river that ran through Kalinga was flooded with the blood of all the casualties. The war was so brutal that afterwards, Ashoka converted to Buddhism and championed policies of nonviolence known as ahimsa, becoming one of history's most famous proponents of peace and religious tolerance.
More than 700 years later, another Indian empire continued the war elephant tradition, but they took things to even more extreme lengths. The Chalukyas of the Vatapi were well known for feeding their war elephants alcohol, oftentimes a concoction of fermented palm juice. Now, the intoxicated elephants became less controllable and more likely to charge at anything in their path. including enemy soldiers.
The drunk elephants were also often led by drunken warriors who sat on top of them. It takes someone with a certain, let's say, lack of inhibitions to volunteer to ride atop a rampaging, intoxicated elephant. And I mean, imagine being on the other side, seeing the swerving, stomping DUIs in progress coming at you. Scary. Thanks for watching. What other terrifying weapons do you want to learn more about? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more Nutty History.